Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning.
We're learning Mishna Nazir, Perek Beis, Chapter 2, Mishnah Aleph, Mishnah 1. Okay. Hareini Nazir. A person declares, I am hereby a Nazir, min ha-groigros min ha-dvela, from dried figs or from pressed figs. That's what he said. Now, I am a Nazir from figs, basically. Now, does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, because Naziris has nothing to do with figs. Naziris is about grape products, but it's nothing to do with figs. And this guy is saying, I'm a Nazir from figs. So Beis Shammai Omrim Nazir. Beis Shammai say, this man is a regular Nazir. Even though he made this declaration, which doesn't seem to make sense, nonetheless, Beis Shammai say, he is still a Nazir, a regular, full-fledged Nazir. Ubeis Hillel, and now, as a full-fledged Nazir, grape products he can't have. Can he have figs? Certainly can. Ubeis Hillel Omrim Ein a Nazir. And Beis Hillel say, no, this person is not a Nazir. Okay, so now, how do we understand this? We have to understand the opinions. Beis Shammai says he's a Nazir, which basically means we focus on the first part of what he says, when he says Hareini Nazir, and the second half of from figs, that we ignore. But how do you ever, and Beis Shammai say, and Beis Hillel say, no, you can't ignore that. You know, it's one big statement. He made his Naziris from figs. There's no such thing. So it's meaningless. So what's the machlokes here? So let me read to you here from the bottom. Beis Shammai maintain that even when a person makes a vow or any legal declaration that seems meaningless, we assume he intended for it to make sense. A person is not going to say something lavatala, meaningless. Since there is no such thing as Naziris from figs, we must assume that when he said, I am hereby a Nazir, he meant to become a regular Nazir, but he immediately regretted this and tried to take it back by adding from figs. He hopes that mentioning figs will release him from the Naziris vow, since they have nothing to do with Naziris. Nonetheless, he is a Nazir, because Beis Shammai hold that a person cannot undo a vow of Naziris once it is made. This is based on their view that even Naziris made in error takes effect. So Beis Shammai start like this. Principle number one is, even though it makes no sense what he's saying, people don't say things that make no sense. There's got to be something real behind it. So therefore, we have to assume that when this person said Hareini Nazir, he meant it, regular Naziris. But right then and there, he had regret. And he tried to take it back by saying from figs, which he knows there's no such thing as Naziris from figs. So he tried to take it back that way. Say, Beis Shammai, you can't take back. If you make a Naziris vow, there's no taking it back. That's Beis Shammai's opinion. Even if somehow or another, I will see later an example of a person who makes a Naziris vow in error, still takes effect according to Beis Shammai. So therefore, Beis Shammai say, we have to understand what he's saying as not meaningless, but in order to make meaning of it, we got to kind of divide it into two. The first half was originally a regular declaration of Naziris. Then he wanted to try to take it back by saying from figs, because no such thing as Naziris from figs. So he hoped that would basically nullify what he did. And Beis Shammai say, too late, can't do that. You can't take it back. According to Beis Hillel, the statement is a single unit, and since there is no Naziris regarding figs, his declaration is meaningless. Thus, he is not a Nazir. According to Beis Hillel, he made one statement. Is it it's meaningless? According to Beis Hillel, yeah, it's meaningless. And he said something meaningless, finished. And therefore, if it's meaningless, it doesn't do anything. Now, can he eat dates?
Yeah.
Yeah, because his whole point was to be a Nazir from dates, which is no such thing. So he never did anything, or he never made any kind of vow about dates, and therefore he's not a Nazir. He can eat dates, and that's it. Okay. Omar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said, Av kasha amru Beis Shammai. Even when Beis Shammai said what they said, Lo amru ela ba'omer harei hein olai karban. That's only if he explains that he never meant to be a Nazir from figs, but he meant to prohibit figs on himself like a carbon. Meaning, we know if you say about figs, hare, you have figs in front of you and you say, these figs are a carbon to me. That's a neder. That's a vow. That's a neder. Where you say something should be like a carbon. Same way a carbon you can't have benefit from, can have benefit from a sacrifice. When you make a neder, you are saying the fig should be forbidden also. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, when Beis Shammai said that a person says, I'm a nazir from dates, or from figs rather. I'm a nazir from figs. And Beis Shammai said, and everybody said that doesn't make sense. So says Beis Shammai, according to Rabbi Yehuda, not that you become a nazir. You don't become a nazir. Because no such thing as naziris from figs. But if you tell us that you meant that when you said I should be a nazir, you meant to make a neder, you meant just to forbid the figs on you, then it'll work. Because the word nazir also implies to separate from something, because when you become a nazir, you do separate from things. So when he says here, I'm a nazir from figs, if he tells us he meant to be a nazir, then nothing to talk about. Meaningless, no point of it. However, if he says, what I meant was I'm making a neder, a regular neder, but I used the word nazir, but I meant a regular neder, then Beis Shammai say it's going to work. Because this expression of nazir, you want to use the word nazir to just make a regular neder, you can do that too. However, so that's Beis Shammai. And Beis Hillel, who argue, say nothing, not even a neder. What you said was meaningless. You said nazir. And when you say nazir, you mean nazir. And you said nazir from figs, no such thing. It's meaningless and nothing happens. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, there was never a question, will he become a nazir when he says these words? I'm hereby a nazir from figs. According to Rabbi Yehuda, Beis Shammai agreed there, you'll not be a nazir. The question is, would we say though, that again, a person doesn't want to, we don't assume a person is saying something meaningless. And, or actually, I should take that back. If we ask the person, he explains to us that when he said these words, I am a nazir from figs, he didn't mean to be nazir. He meant just to make a neder of forbidding himself from figs. Beis Shammai say, okay, if that's what you meant, that can work. And Beis Hillel say, the wording you used was nazir, and that means nazir. You can't use that to mean neder. And therefore, you say nazir from figs, no such thing, meaningless, and nothing happens. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi. So now what?